It's not that I thought, oh, I want to take freediving and put in because it's interesting if I weren't a freediver. You know, I didn't put ballet in there. I didn't put skateboarding in there, you know, because I don't know about those sports. The breath holding is what I love. It was a gift given to me from nature or God, or I don't know where it came from, just to teach people how to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Now, I use breath holding as a tool. Oh, what can he or she not accomplish who can hold their breath?
I'm Dr. Esra Çavuşoğlu, and I've been living a sober life for the past 18 years. My battle with addiction drove me to seek new methods, devices, and supplements to improve my physical and mental performance, enhance my quality of life, and ultimately live healthier for longer. From my experiences in addiction recovery, biohacking, and longevity to the latest global developments, from groundbreaking entrepreneurs to expert academics, the conversations I've had over the years are now featured weekly on Ayık Kafa podcast. Today, my guest is Stig Severinsen, a four-time world champion freediver and the first human to hold his breath for more than 20 minutes. The man also beat the Wim Hof record for diving under the ice. Stig holds a master's degree in biology and a PhD in medicine. He has set 10 official Guinness World Records. In 2012, Stig was crowned the ultimate superhuman after holding his breath for 22 minutes underwater, which I will start training very soon. Has been trusted by Olympic gold winners, Navy SEALs, Fortune 500 companies, and the Danish Royal Air Force. Besides the high-performance segment, this method is also widely used for veterans battling with PTSD, for people recovering from illness or accidents, and for everyday people. Now it's time for our talk with Stig. Stig, welcome. Welcome to Ayık Kafa, which means Soberhead Podcast. I'm so honored that you're with me.
Thank you.
Let's jump in right away. My audience, obviously, they're very familiar with Şahika, Turkish record holder freediving.
Yes.
And the whole country got so excited when she was able to do the 100-meter. We never knew how difficult it is to train until I met you and I started looking into your documentaries and videos and so on and so forth. And it's really impressive and it's very dangerous. But I also watched how you're describing what dangerous is. And you were like, dangerous is not wearing a helmet and riding your bikes to the grocery shop. Because you don't know what can happen if some car comes out or some animal comes out. So it's very interesting. And I also realized that you started holding your breath while you were a kid in your swimming pool.
Yes.
So basically, you wanted to hold your breath for the longest time. Then you became multiple times Guinness record champion and world champion and so on and so forth. So let's start with, how did this journey started? Did it start with yoga and meditation? Did it start that you wanted to be an Olympic athlete? How did everything started?
It started exactly where you said it started, you know, in my parents' swimming pool. I was lucky to grow up, have a nice family home, a nice big villa. We had a swimming pool. Actually, the house was designed by my father, who was very interested in architecture and houses and a nice home for his family. So my brother and I would this is in the early mid 70s, 1970s. I'm born in 1973. I'm 51 years old. So about half a century ago, we would dive around in the pool because I love animals. I'm a biologist in training with a PhD in medicine that followed after, but I always loved animals. And I'm curious about nature, how animals live and communicate and breathe and function, so the physiology and neurophysiology. So I had all these little rubber animals and plastic animals, so we would throw them in the pool. And then the other person had to hide his eyes. And the neighbor was also joining, a boy from across the road. And he later became a Navy SEAL. So that's, special ops soldier. So that's kind of a funny story. But we would have this little club and we would, one should throw the little animals in and the other people could not watch. And then in one breath, we should jump in and with a little basket try to collect as many animals as possible. That was the game. And of course, when you're a child, the more you can hold your breath, the more animals you can collect. Then I started at 5. We also had a boat, so we had a beautiful family boat. I would dive from the boat and dive to the bottom of the sea. And my parents were very normal, but also quite, trusting in that I was a good swimmer. So I would dive down and take clams and things, kind of like you do in Turkey and Greece and the more Mediterranean areas. And I would dive down and find a little coral for my father or something, a little clam maybe. And then also on holidays to the Mediterranean, that was a family tradition. Every year we went for a few weeks to Spain, Italy, France, and I would spend all the time in the water. So it was a very natural thing for me. And when you're a child, the more you love something and the better you become at it. And the better you become at it, the more fun it is. So it was a stimulating play. It was never to become a world champion or anything like that. Then I started at 5 with competitive swimming because my parents thought it's better. I started baby swimming. My mother took me baby swimming when I was a very young baby. She was a swim instructor as well. And then I started at 5 it was called the talent team. You got selected out of maybe 200 people. And we were 3 boys selected for the talent team. So I did all my youth. All my years as a child and a young man, I was doing competitive swimming. And then I developed asthma, and I found out that by diving underwater and by relaxing, I was very good at that for some reason, and it felt good. And somehow I kind of cured myself and came through the competition of swimming. So I found out that I had this gift of holding my breath, probably also because I trained it. But I also think I realized that when you are underwater and hold your breath, there's an enormous there's it's quietness. Nowadays I call it meditation underwater, but there is this space and this universe where you're just floating and you're free. So I think I just subconsciously followed that path, if it makes sense. And then when I grew up, I started playing underwater rugby on the national team. We became the Danish champions, and underwater hockey when I lived in Spain. So I always followed my passion. But the world champion idea only came when I was in my 30s. It was never from childhood that I wanted to become a world champion, but I was always competitive.
30, it's not that young. Normally people get into these competitive arenas when they're in their 20s, not in their 30s, correct?
Or in their teens. Yeah. But that's actually a good point, Ezra, because freediving is a sport for everybody at every age. And as a matter of fact, because it has so much focus on the mind part, it's maybe 80% psychological, 20% physical. The more you can control your mind. That's why I love taking all these ideas from freediving. That's why I created Breathology, to have the best ideas that I met from the smartest doctors, the best freedivers, the best athletes I ever met in the world, in all kinds of sports, but especially freediving, and the best scientists, and from my journeys to India with my gurus. I mixed all that in together and created a platform called Breathology. We can get back to that. But that was so that people could use these techniques. And I saw so many benefits to my health, to my lungs, to my mind. So when you get older, your metabolism goes down. You would know everything about that since you're so much into biohacking and health training, right? But as we grow and become older, some functions decrease. The muscles, become less, the density and the amount of muscles we have when we grow older. The nervous system slows down a little bit. We become more frail and slow, so we need to work to stay strong. But the metabolic rate goes down. So that means you burn less oxygen when you're older because everything slows down, which means you can hold your breath longer because you don't have the big muscle mass and you don't have this engine running as fast. So when you have life experience, like yourself, you've tried tough things, you've tried beautiful things, you have developed, you can say, a lifetime of mental training and how to adapt to different stressful situations. So if you're 18 or 15 or 23, you're just a young person, you might have not had the same experience with hardship in life to deal with these situations of getting the urge to breathe and such. So when you're older, you're smarter. And if you can use that wisdom combined with the fact that you're actually burning less oxygen, then it's very, very possible to do world records at 40, 50, and 60. Natalia Molchanova, who's actually not with us anymore, the greatest freediver, with all respect also to the Turkish community and Sahika and all these people down there who have been doing freediving for 25 years now in competitions. With all respect for these people, Natalia was the greatest star of all time. There will never be another one like her. She had world records in all the disciplines. She was second to none. She died in a freediving accident. Nobody knows what happens. But her son, Alexei or Alex, is today the greatest freediver alive. He's also probably the nicest, and he's a good friend of mine. I used to beat him when he was 17. maybe a nice way to wrap it up to explain that this incredibly talented super freediver, like Alex, is a freak of nature. He has spent 30 years to the level he is now, right? Mm-hmm. Alexei Molchanov. He runs Molchanov freediving, also I would say the most modern way of freediving now, the system. And he's just such a lovely guy and so talented. But when he was 17, I beat his ass. And I became the world champion 4 times, and twice I beat him at the world championships in the same pool, the same day, same second, because he was young. Mm-hmm. You see, it makes sense. But now he's way past my capacity back then. He's a superstar now.
Wonderful to hear that. And I agree with you. When you get older, you have so much wisdom, even to look to a situation or when I treat people, it's a total different understanding. While you were describing all these, a couple of things came to my mind. With wisdom, like you said, and the calmness and the stability. So it's not just the sports free diving, because I watched, as I said, a couple of videos of yours that is really very difficult for me to understand. There was one video that you were head to head with an alligator under the water, and you have to be so calm, let alone swimming with the sharks and whatever. But that picture cannot leave my mind. You know, you have to have such an interesting stillness and calmness that you're going to be able to kick out the fear, because that's a very fearful. I mean, with the picture I saw, he could just open his mouth and just grab your head. So I want to ask you what longevity means for you and how all these trainings between meditation, breathing, yoga, and I also saw your training, physical training, and there's a lot of flexibility work. So how do you see longevity from that angle?
I see it in a very simple way. You know, everything I do is very simplistic. Mm-hmm. And maybe also that makes it powerful. And I think also with Breathology, the system I've created or the method, you know, when things are more simple, you can do them easier. It's more easy to implement in your life. It doesn't mean that it's easy. You know, you have to do the work. I cannot breathe for you. I cannot do the push-ups for you. I cannot get strong arms like you have. You need to do workout, right? But I can give you the context and I can give you the framework, and the difficult, exercises and the techniques to do it in the smartest way. So I look at longevity in the sense that you need to do a little bit of work every day. You can take one day off in the week. That's not what I mean. But in general, you need to do a little bit of a workout every day. I just finished my morning workout here, so I can tell people exactly what I did. I did like I would say a body fitness routine workout. That means some jumping up and down. You call it jumping jacks in the military. I would do push-ups with the rails, so with my handlebars, you know, so I don't push my hands back, but I just hold the grab like this, little plastic bars. It's like a shape like a half square, and I can put them on the floor. Then I do the L sit, you know, I sit and hold myself up and I do the legs up and I spread the legs for the flexibility, for the groin. Then I take the knees in and out, about 50 times. Then I raise myself up. So it's like gymnastics, but I just do it in the comfort of my own home. Then I do the elastic bands. Then I train my, my flexibility in my chest by compressing. And then I will end with a little bit of flexibility training, bends and stretching. And that's it. I just did it. That's why I'm a little bit sweaty here. I just did it 15 minutes ago. So it doesn't take more than that. That was a 12-minute workout. And some breathing in between, you know, a little bit of heavy breathing to get everything going. The blood pressure, the veins, you know, your blood system has to work like a cardiovascular system, expand and contract. And when you do that every day, just for 5-10 minutes, it has this additive effect. So it builds on each other. So after 5 years, after 10 years, after, 30 years, 50 years, it's like putting money in the bank, and the dividends, the interests, the extra thing you get on top of that training is remarkable. That is longevity for me, a healthy, fit life with good, positive mindsets, not beating yourself down, not having too many negative thoughts. If you can try to come back to a positive and thankful state of mind. And there are different breathing techniques and where you can lead your mind back, because the mind is very tricky to operate. In yoga, it's called a monkey mind. It's like a naughty monkey. It does bad things. It pulls a tail. It runs up and down. It thinks about the future and things that could go wrong or things that happened in the past. where again, breathing is like the secret of yoga. It brings you to the present moment. Because that breath I just took and that people can feel through this little plastic screen here, it unites us all in the energy and the spirit with the universe, whether we believe in this nonsense or not, and we have an effect on each other from the breathing. So when I talk like this and I want to say something and maybe I'm a bit afraid and I breathe with my mouth, this stress emanates out in the world. It makes people feel uneasy. But if I smile and have control of my breathing and I open the lungs, I emit this positivity and life force, the prana, the ki, the chi, then it melts into people's mind and their body, and it's kind of a healing or at least supporting a system of positivity. So the way you breathe is very important. And with longevity, I can give the best example of my parents. Mm-hmm. To give you a concrete example, sure. Because I guess your listeners are between 15, 20 years old and 80, maybe, 90, I hope, 100. People are living longer and longer. So for longevity, my parents are 82 and 88. Okay, they're quite fresh, and it's a very short story. But in 2016, right, 8 years ago, my dad turned 80 because he's 88. At that time, I was lucky. I had a lot of good things going on in the business, so I made some money. And I'm not very capitalistic or very materialistic, so I thought I will invite my parents and family to go to California for a road trip for 12 days to follow the footsteps I went on when I had a little office in Palo Alto and next to Facebook, PayPal, all this Silicon Valley stuff. When I was learning online marketing and how to build a community online. When I wrote my book, I thought I need to scale this. How can I get my method out to people so I can help people breathe better, live better lives? That's the mission statement of Breathology, to help the world breathe better, one breath at a time. So I thought I need to go online because more and more people were on the phone. They were like looking here and on their iPad or the Kindle at that time, the tablet. So I thought I need to get in their pocket. That's how I can expand beyond borders and languages and stuff. Now with AI, it's all much more easy. So I took them on this journey. For 12 days. And my father's grandfather went to America. A lot of Europeans went 2 generations ago to the US. So I wanted to give him a trip also back to the memory lane of his family ancestry, his tree. It's a very beautiful story, but in brief, I started them with a small app called 7-Minute Workout. It's a free app. I don't get money to say it. It's just a free app on the App Store. 7 minutes workout. And I would tell them to do that every morning in the hotel, and my brother would join and I would jump around. It's 7 minutes. And I can tell you, my parents have always had a good physique and I would say normal shape, right? In good shape. But my dad had for many years, maybe 10, 15 years, had back pain when he was sleeping because he didn't move all night. So he would take painkillers, wake up 2, 3 o'clock. And of course, the doctors prescribe painkillers, right? Being not so modern and smart. So after those few weeks, he absolutely had no pain. Then I also bought a core ball. If people don't know what I mean, it's like a big plastic ball. It's like the size of my arms here when I'm big and strong.
Like a medicine ball?
Yeah, like a yoga ball, like a big ball, you can roll on it. It's in every fitness center. It's like usually blue or green or something like that. And he would use that for the lower back, and I would show him 3 simple exercises. In a few weeks, all his back pain went away, and he never took a pill since. Now he can touch the ground. That's his morning routine. I need to touch the ground, he says. He's 88. And when he's then traveling or having to go and see family for 2 or 3 days, let's say a weekend, and he doesn't do the exercises because maybe he's with a family, he doesn't want to jump around in the living room, he says in 2 to 3 days he gets more stiff and he can't touch the floor and he needs to take a painkiller. Isn't that a great testimony to how just 5-10 minutes a day gives you longevity, which in my world means a healthy life, a long life with a healthy body and mind? It doesn't matter longevity if you live to 100 if you don't have a good health and a good mind. Then the rest doesn't matter. So longevity is about having a long, healthy, sane life, happy life.
Absolutely correct. I want to add one more thing, being able to deal with your stressors. And obviously you were able to show that to the world, like how you were dealing with your stressors would be life-threatening stressors. And what they say in longevity, as you know, if you're too stressed, it's going to kill you much faster. And you threw yourself into stressful situations, but it seems like your medicine was your breathing. So how were you preparing for these stressful situations?
Yeah, you're very, very right on that. So my main mission, besides making the world breathe better one breath at a time, right? This state mission, this life mission I'm committed to with my entire life. It's all I do, basically. The main thing is using breathing, and especially the breath holding. That's, I guess, why you interview me also, because we had this wonderful chat in Helsinki for the Biohacker Summit.
Sure.
The breath holding is what I love. It was a gift given to me from nature or God, or I don't know where it came from, being born in that family with a swimming pool, with a boat, with the, financial ability to travel to, the Mediterranean every year. And I was just, fortunate and lucky to have good health and to be very active and curious as a child, and support from my parents. So I learned how I could control different stressful situations and build self-confidence. So now I train that to the Navy SEALs, the military, the fighter pilots, and veterans and people, victims of rape and violence and horrible things. And that's because the second thing in Breathology, or in my methodology, is just to teach people how to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Now, I use breath holding as a tool. I just use it as a little nifty tool, a little smart tool, because I'm very, familiar with all the techniques, or most of the techniques in freediving. That's my life for half a century. I did breath holding for 50 years, right? So since I was a baby, maybe 4 months old, I started all this play. And mind you, babies until they're 3 or 4 months old have the diving response, then we forget it, but you can keep it alive. We have a natural response. If you put a baby underwater, they will close the throat and just swim and be happy with open eyes. So we do have it from a gift from birth.
I listened to you yesterday. I was listening to someone interviewing you, and when I heard that, little babies can hold their breath under the water, I'm like, oh, wow. I don't have a child, so I wouldn't know that.
Then we forget. But the main point is, like you're saying, my tool, my instrument is to help people understand and feel, do the work, like, you do the push-ups, you do the work and the breath holding. We have a course online completely free called the 7 Days Breath Hold Challenge. We had 1,000 people join just the first week. Anyone can Google it. You can put a link or whatever, but It's in school, SKOOL. But people can just type the 7-Day Breath Hold Challenge with Stig Severinsen. And it's actually a backdoor. It's a sneaky way to get people in to hold their breath and then teach them breath work. So just as my parents are doing the breathing, when they do the exercises, I always tell them breathing is king. When I teach breathing is king, breathing leads, then the movement has to follow. That's the mistake most athletes do, and that's what I correct when I help all these great Olympian athletes. So breathing is so important, but you don't know breathing well if you don't know the other side of the story, breath holding. That's my philosophy. If you don't, if you want to understand breath work, which is so popular now, it's exploding like never before in popularity around the world. That's, also why you're probably bringing me on, because of this breath, angle to biohacking and health and longevity. But if you don't understand the 360-degree process, if you only understand the breathing, but not the pause, not the turning of the breath, not the exhale, not the triggering of the vagus nerve, lowering the heart rate, going into parasympathetic activation voluntarily, you go to that rest and digest, the feeling good, the regenerative state. If you don't understand that basic physiology and psychology and the neurotransmitters and all the beautiful chemical signals in your body, if you don't have a basic understanding of that, then you don't know how to use your breathing to lead you or guide you in different directions in your life and in your mind. So I use breath holding as a tool to complete breath work, if you can say so. Like the day and night, yin and yang, you need both sides to understand the fullness. So that's my philosophy. And then when you learn to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation in breath holding, right? Then you can apply that to anything else in life, whether it's drug addiction or depression or, being in a violent relationship or, having a stupid boss at work. There are so many situations in life where you're stressed because you're not in control of the situation. But what you can learn to become the master of is controlling your reaction. So how do you react to a stimulus? How do you respond to negativity or to high loads of stress. And when you can do that in breath holding, and I didn't invent this, I use this as a tool probably more than anyone in the world for high level CEOs, for, business development and stuff as well. But it was invented, it was, described in great detail in yoga, in pranayam, and in pranayam, which is the fourth limb of yoga, I see it as the connection between the body, the asanas, the physical exercises we just talked about, the workout, that's kind of an asana. And then you go to the fifth limb, pratyahara, and you climb up the yoga ladder to reach samadhi, bliss, melting in with the universe, dissolving your ego. That's the goal of yoga, to reach the highest enlightenment. So in pranayama, they talk a lot about something called kumbhak or kumbhaka. They talk about antur kumbhak and bahya kumbhak. So you either have full lungs or empty lungs. I don't want to nerd out too much today,
No, do, because while you're explaining, I have questions. So please.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying in short, Ezra, that in yoga there's a huge part in the segment, or in the fourth limb of yoga. Ashtanga yoga means 8 limbs, so there are 8 steps to heaven, we can say, right, to liberation. So the fourth step is called pranayama. Prana is the life force, life energy, and with breathing and the mind you can control the life force. So it's very akin. It's very like the chi or the ki in the Japanese and Chinese systems. It's like a life force energy, and with breathing you take it and you control it. So it was described many, many thousand years ago that it says in the scriptures, the Upanishads, Patanjali, all these writings in the books, oh, what can he or she not accomplish who can hold their breath for a long time? So it means he or she who can control the life force and not breathe and go against the strongest reflex in life, which is breathing, right? And the CO2 level rising, and you have to breathe, but you need to stay calm. If you can apply that, that is what I've stolen from yoga. That's what I've been inspired by, to bring into a modern world and explain why it works physiologically, mentally, and then people can use it in all their life situations. I don't know what people's lives look like, but I know that they can take these techniques and apply to anything in life and have a better life because of less stress.
Probably your degree in biology and PhD in medicine is helping you to combine all these scientific understanding of these techniques and mindset together when you design either your breathology school or when you were diving, correct?
Very correct. And thank you for observing that. Yes, of course, the Breathology platform, or the idea, was just born from all of my love and passion and interests. So, I didn't invent the wheel or anything. I just took the best I knew from science. So Breathology is built on 3 pillars, so it's stable.
Let me then add to my question about Breathology, your company, so that, you'll have a chance to explain, because it was in my mind. What I read is, what you say is, breath holding is the new black. A very cool description. So it's going to be very much people who want to be cooler would kind of lean toward breath holding rather than simple breathing exercises.
I think so.
I also saw on your website, you say breath holding built a powerful immune system, elimination of the inflammation naturally, rapid recovery, strengthening the respiratory system, better sleep, transform stress to resilience, athletic performance, increase CO2 tolerance, which are all actually wonderful. So why don't you talk about breathology techniques? Because I'm not sure if it's just breath holding or there are more things, because I want to share with my audience from here that I want to start your course in October. You may want to talk about that also, because I've been suggested to learn how to properly breathe. I find myself holding my breath, not like your technique, more so out of stress.
Yes.
And I catch myself. I said, oh my God, I'm again holding my breath. And interestingly enough, I went to, my siblings and my cousins, we all went to swimming schools when we were young. And I find myself, and I have a weird reaction when I'm in the water now, that I hold my breath too much. I don't allow myself to relax and swim, rather than I feel like I need to hold my breath as if my head is under. Since I'm very much interested into longevity, biohacking, etc., I wanted to learn a proper way to breathe. But once I met you, I didn't see your teaching style, but I saw how you were implementing into your life. And I also saw over there that high achieving people, stressful situation, they all apply to me. So I'm very excited for that October course starting. So why don't you tell in general what Breathology is and what's special about it?
Thank you for that very wonderful and deep question. And I'm, of course, honored and thrilled to explain what Breathology is. It's very simple to understand. So like you said, it's a brand. It's a trademark, registered trademark. We have all the lawyers, all the Swiss stuff, paid a lot of money to get it all, correctly protected. But that's just like legal, boring stuff. What it is actually more a philosophy or a framework. So it's a Breathology method. You can call it what you want. But obviously it comes from the two names, breathing, breath, right? Breathology, and from logos, from the Greek learning. So it means the learning or the understanding or applying breathing to have a better life. Like biology means bios is Greek for life and logos is learning or understanding. So understanding life is biology. That's why I became a biologist. I love life. I love nature. And then I created Breathology. So it's actually just built by three passions, three different pillars. One is cutting edge science. You just mentioned that. My background is as a master degree in biology, marine biology, zoo physiology, and neurophysiology. That's my specialty. And then I did a PhD in medicine. So for 25 years, I've been a guinea pig when I was training to become a world champion. And it was a little bit easier back then, 10, 15, 20 years ago, to just go to the lab, have some doctors come, have a coffee and do some exercises and some investigations. Nowadays, with modern hospitals, you need to book time for the MR scanner, the PET scan. And, it was a little bit more of a free time, free spirit, free thinking. So we did so much analysis and test on my brain. They injected radioactive isotopes in the bloodstream to see where the oxygen is used and not, how it is flowing in your brain when you're holding your breath in an MR scan. And we did all kinds of things. Ultrasound of the spleen where you have the red blood cells stored. Looked at lung volume. I was above 14 liters, so 14 liters, like double the normal lung size of my height and weight and so forth.
You were born like that or you became like that after trainings?
Just in very brief, just to continue in the Breathology,
Sure.
platform, what it is, I was born with, I would say, normal / quite big lungs and a big spleen, half a liter, 500 mils. We measured it with ultrasound. But you can train your lungs bigger. That's the message. And that's what doctors don't tell you. And if you have post-COVID or lung cancer or, other lung issues, you can train what you have and you can use what you have. I get this question often. I answered it last week in another podcast. If you have only one lung, let's say, of course, if you can use it better and use breathing techniques and stretching and use maybe 85% of the lung instead of just 50, you have a much better life. That's, a no-brainer. But I also use packing. It's a technique I don't recommend if you're not a professional freediver or know exactly what you're doing, but that's a way to use your tongue as a piston above vital capacity, and then you put more. But you put a lot of strain on the lungs, on the lung membrane, so I wouldn't recommend it. I'm just explaining when people see videos of freedivers, world champions, they do the, also called carpa, you eat the air. That's how you can put so much extra air in. It's like a bicycle pump.
Why don't you? Because most people are going to try to do it once they watch. I need to know why you don't recommend.
Because you can blow up your lung membrane called the pleura and you can have big damage. And you can even have so much air in that you have an embolism.
Good thing to know because I was trying last night.
Well, if you also need to know the technique and a lot of training, but if you do it, you can damage yourself like anything in life if you don't have proper instructions and education. And even a little tear can be a problem. You can also tear or stretch the muscles, the intercostal muscles in your rib cage. And you can have what nobody will know on this podcast, no doctors for sure, but you can have an embolism. You can have an air bubble transcend or go past the lung membrane, go into your bloodstream and go into your brain. I had that happen once. I got slurred speech and tunnel vision and I was rushed to the neurological hospital in Sweden. So I know it can happen. So I've been out in the extremes as well, but I still think freediving is pretty safe. And like you said in the beginning of the podcast, but maybe just to not go too crazy because I always talk about so many things.
Sure.
Breathology is three things. Cutting edge science, the best from modern science, medicine, what can you apply? How can you measure? What is this breathing method doing to your body, to your blood system, to your heart rate, to your lungs, to your skin, to your immune system? Then it is high performance. So measuring from freediving, how deep can you go? How long can you go? Because I believe it's the most simple and beautiful way to measure your mind state without putting all these things on and without doing complicated biohacker things that are now becoming modern. You can simply see at home, anybody watching your podcast, please never hold your breath alone in water. Don't free dive in water in your bathtub, in your pool. But on dry land, in the bed, on your yoga mat, anybody can try to hold their breath, even till they black out, till they faint, because they will just start breathing again. But if you use breath holding, let's call it breath holding, because then you're not free diving, that implies you're in water. If you're just holding your breath like you're doing sometimes, right, then it's kind of a measurement for your state of mind and your bodily functions. So the longer you can hold your breath, that's the whole point of this 7 days breath hold challenge I explained before that we have online for free. Then when people learn to hold their breath longer, it is because they become better at controlling the mind, understanding proper breathing, as you very correctly call it, right? It's the best way of breathing that you can. And then you can have more oxygen in your system and thus hold your breath longer. You also create tolerance for CO2, which is in fact the driver of breathing. It's not the low oxygen as people think. They don't start breathing, people holding their breath. You don't start breathing because you need oxygen. No, you don't need it yet. You're not trained at that level yet. You just have high levels of CO2, the byproduct of the metabolic energy process. So you think you have to breathe. And there are some sensors in the carotid artery in your brain measuring the amount of CO2. So when you can learn to control that and change the sensitivity of the chemoreceptors, the little measurement stations, then you can change your whole life focus and your way of dealing with stress. So it's cutting edge science, it's peak performance in sports, and then it's the respect and implication of timeless wisdom. Yoga, meditation, mindfulness. So the best of stretching, the best of using the body as we're built as beautiful human beings, as animals, you can say, creatures. And then also with the mind, how can you control the mind and the thinking, you know, in the spiritual / psychological way. So when you mix those three, timeless wisdom, let's just call it yoga so people understand what I'm saying, yoga and meditation. Peak performance in sports. It doesn't have to be free diving, but in free diving, you can measure in depth and seconds. So it's a very simple way. You look at your clock. Oh, I could double my time now. I must be double, you know, the champion of relaxation, right? And then also in the medical sense that you actually feel healthier, you lower your blood pressure, your heart rate goes down, you have more clear skin. Maybe that's more for the ladies, right? But when you do breathing exercises and the stuff that I teach, you have more oxygen to your skin. So, you know, you have less wrinkles, you have more radiant eyes, your teeth become white. I don't have white in my teeth. I don't do all this modern stuff. I'm just a guy, you know, old fashioned, but you have energy in your life, right? Because you're taking the life source into your life. So that's breathology. And the main takeaway I would say for people listening, also now in Turkey and beyond, is that when I wrote the book, Breathology, I mentioned before, I thought immediately, this is 15 years old, Breathology, the art of conscious breathing. It's an art form to breathe properly or correctly, right? It's an art form. You need to be conscious, aware how you should breathe, because many people have the chest breathing, the mouth breathing, the bad habits. So in Breathology, I teach people, I make them aware of the bad habits, the tension, the holding back, the bad sleep pattern at night. And then I turn that with exercises and understanding into good habits. So that's the main mission that I'm on, to make people aware and then have good habits instead, because it costs the same. You know, if you're breathing in one way or the other, it's the same breath, but you can do it correctly or in a bad way. And then I explain the physiology, I explain the yoga poses, and anybody can do this at home, you know, understanding the diaphragm, the chest breathing, how you sit in different positions, but you know, don't need to sit like this. How do you go underwater, do meditation underwater? How do you dive in ice? You know, it's very much in biohacking with the cold exposure. That was another Guinness World Record I did in Discovery Channel. When I beat the Wim Hof record, I like running like everybody else. I stay in shape. I swim with my monofin like a merman, you know, like the Little Mermaid from Disney. I train in the forest. You know, I talk about the lungs and simple exercises. You know, this is not rocket science. This is something my grandmother would do when she was 90 years old, right? And here's my yoga teacher, my master from India. I talk about longevity, that you can stay stronger in your lungs. I show the science. And how you can do the lung packing was right here. So, and it's a free book. You know, you can find it on Amazon, but I gave it for free in COVID to 500,000 people. So it's still free on the website. But here I actually explained the packing. So just for you, Ezra, if you're so curious that you are, you know, you can just go to page 213 and see all the steps of moving the tongue in the right way. So anyways, I tried to make all this science and yoga and peak performance and package it in a smart, simple way. So anyone in the world, and now with AI and translations, maybe your podcast also is translated to Turkish, right?
It is going to be translated.
Yeah, so everyone can use these techniques because they're simple and put them into their lives and their religion and their tradition. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with beliefs in God or not. It's just mental, physical, spiritual exercises that fit the modern world. That is what I put all my heart into, making it accessible in a little simple framework. So when you go to the end of the book and also the instructor training, we can go back to that. You know, you just simply that's the idea. You read the book. It's a self-help book. You don't need anybody to help you. And then in the end, you create your own personalized training program. So you put just the exercises that I prescribe and I show you in 4 different steps how to do it. And you put them in the 4 different places here and you take notes every day. And in 1 week or 1 month, you start to feel the benefits. You sleep better. Your energy is rising. Your immune system is stronger because you have less stress. So the time has body to heal, described in a very simple way. And then you just start to feel the positive changes. And the better you feel, the more you want to do these exercises. So maybe you start with 5 minutes a day and try this method. And after 1 month, maybe you do 15 minutes every morning or in the evening before you sleep. And your life can change radically.
While you were saying about cold water exposure, and once you said the biohacking, so actually you guys meaning the free diver, especially if it's in the cold place. So there's the cold water exposure. And it's, even though it's not hyperbaric oxygen chamber, yet you're diving under a huge pressure, correct?
Yes, correct. It has similar effects on the EPO, on the red blood cell production. So let's not be too scientific, but we can talk about nerdy stuff. So
I would like to.
The water helps the oxygen, the pressure in your lungs, called the partial pressure. That's the physics. Now we're back in school or university. So the partial pressure, meaning the part or the oxygen the pressure is higher, meaning you push more oxygen into your bloodstream. And that's also what you do with the, inhale and exhale. My favorite go-to exercise, relax on demand. You inhale with the nose, you get the nitrogen oxide. It opens the vessels, it opens the alveoli. And then with the exhale and resistance, you make a slight resistance. So you push against the throat or the soft palate. And in this sense, your lungs are opening more. So for everyday health, it's like a cup of coffee to breathe like that. And it also is great for recovery after accidents or illness, because you will put more oxygen, thus energy, into your system. So diving under ice or underwater has some benefits on health. And it's not dangerous and causing brain damage and anything like that, as long as you're within your limits. It's kind of like hyperbaric medicine in the sense that some people do high altitude training, but not many people realize that if you go in the water, it has the same effect. As a matter of fact, if you're holding your breath at home, you will also produce higher levels of EPO, erythropoietin, which is the thing people are using for drug, for doping in cycling and skiing and all these kind of cardiovascular demanding sports. So you can produce it naturally. And that is why if you follow a more natural way of doing blood doping and so natural doping and getting more red blood cells, you can recover faster from your training or from illness or from being stressed and worn out, being tired in your life. You can recover when you breathe better, because breathing is the source of the energy in your life. It's produced inside of something called the mitochondria, but let's just stay very layman terms, childish here, inside of every single cell. And we have trillions of cells. Every single cell has a lot of small energy factories, and they're called mitochondria or mitochondrion in singular. And that is a little nuclear factory. And inside there, the oxygen will come. You have something called the electron transport chain. It's a little bit complicated. But then you produce ATP, adenosine triphosphate, or you use that to make energy. And that's like a battery. Like you charge your cell phone, the oxygen is used to charge your body. And that's the energy we have combined with water and what we eat. And then the byproduct, one of them, is carbon dioxide, CO2, that we breathe out. But it's very important to have a natural relationship between the levels of oxygen and CO2 in your everyday breath, especially if you're you have the bad habit of chest breathing and mouth breathing, then you're exhaling too much CO2, you're too low, so you don't have that vasodilating, that relaxing effect that CO2 has. And that's also why I recommend never to do hyperventilation in freediving. It's very dangerous because it's CO2 that's giving you the alarm to breathe. So you can actually drown more easily if you do hyperventilation, which is also why I don't recommend the Wim Hof method or the crazy hyperventilation, because you put yourself at risk without knowing it. So we need to be adults. We need to be responsible people and educate the world on what to do and what not to do. If you want to do crazy hyperventilation, if you want to take drugs, you want to take mushrooms, ayahuasca, all this, that's fine. But do it in a safe environment. Don't go in the water where if you black out, you will drown. So it's not that I don't recommend people experiment or be, curious in life, but be safe when you do it.
Stig, I want to now touch base on these actually very important for me, dear to my heart, that, it seems like your technique is approved by WHO to help people with PTSD. And am I correct?
It is approved by the Cedar Hill, the rehabilitation clinic with drug addiction in Canada. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I also have trained both the leaders in the WHO and staff. So all staff or, people working in the WHO, but it's not, so you just mix those two. So it's Cedar Hill, like Cops. It's a clinic that's approved it for the methodology of PTSD from drug addiction and alcohol. But WHO is just one of my clients that's also approving the breathing since I'm training their staff.
Sure.
Just to get it correct.
Okay, thank you for correcting it. So please help me how it is so beneficial and helpful for the person's psychology. You said at the beginning in a grand scheme, but tell me what happens to these people in a treatment center or in a PTSD. They're still living in their PTSD mindset or psychology. How is it helping?
I think it's very, very easy to understand. It's very complex what's going on in the brain and the mind and the soul for these PTSD means post-traumatic stress disorder or disease. So it's something that occurs after a violent event in your life. Bombing, rape, drug, attacks, horrible, or losing a loved one, cancer in your family, Alzheimer's. It can be things that are just having a very big impact on you, either in childhood or your adult life. So PTSD, or PTS, it is now called in the US, but I don't really care much about descriptions. People know what it is. So I think the very simple reason why especially breath holding. That's why I made that talk. You mentioned before, breath holding is the new black. That was a TED talk. If people want to look it up, TED is like a platform with some red signs or red letters. Some probably know it. It's a quite famous platform. If you have something to explain to the world or share with the world, you're invited to TED. You don't call them up, they call you. So I did a few TED talks and I talked about how to heal from Lyme's disease in 2010 and 2019. In 2010 was when I broke the 20-minute barrier. I was the first person to hold my breath more than 20 minutes. So when I was on stage, I also talked about how I healed and helped my friend with Lyme's disease, which is also a bad disease in the nervous system, neurological disease. But in 2019, when I was invited on again, I talked about PTSD and how I see our work in Breathology helping, and all the analysis and the questionnaires we have done ourselves. And I pay for all this, we're kind of self-employed. And because I worked with veterans and with the Navy SEALs, the Royal Air Force, it's always been close to my heart to help these people in need. And then that spread out to women also, and people having, difficult times for various reasons. We have helped people that were kidnapped by pirates and raped and women, horrible stories. And I think the simple explanation is that you give people the control back in their own lives. For the first time, they realize that with breathing exercises, and especially breath holding, baby steps, they start to realize, oh, I can hold my breath when I want to for 5 seconds. I can stop my breathing in and out, my life force, at will. I can do it in a pleasurable way, or at least a way that is not so stressful to me. And like I said before, holding your breath is the most stressful thing that can occur in life if you keep doing it, because you need to breathe at some point to live, or you will die. And the body knows very well that if you don't breathe now, you will die. So it's this beautiful dichotomy. It's this beautiful dance between holding your breath and the mind and the ability to learn to relax when you need to, and, postponing this notion or this thought that you're going to die now or some horrible thing is going to happen. So when you can combine that beautiful dance, this kind of ballet, then you start to be able to relax and still, be in a stressful environment. That's what I said before, learn to become comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. So we give people a tool in breath holding and breath work, to lower the heart rate, to lower the stress symptoms in their body. They can just measure the heart rate. If you do slow breathing for 5 minutes, you will measure on your clock, your Apple Watch, whatever, that the heart rate is going down. And you can also measure with pulse oximetry that the oxygen is going up and the blood pressure going down. You're being good to yourself. You're doing the smart way of breathing. And so I think that when we give people a tool, they're like, wow, I don't necessarily need to take drugs or antidepressant medicine, because that's what I also talk about in my TED Talk. I'm quite provocative in that, provoking science, because how, I'm not an expert on PTSD. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychotherapist, but any idiot with a brain and 2 brain cells can figure out that, the way that the modern health system is working, whether it's giving antidepressant pills or Ritalin or kids with, concentration deficit or ADHD or many other diseases, we need to be proactive. We need to, work on the reasons behind, the root cause, as you call it. Why is this occurring now? What happened in your life? That is what we need to understand. And then we need to fix that or avoid it happening in the future. Same with depression. I say in the TED Talk, and I think I use these words, and I know your background is also from some really hardcore stuff. But I say in this TED Talk, I think I say these exact words, you can take antidepressant medicine, yes, but you might as well just get high or drunk. I think I use exactly these words. So I don't drink a lot, but I've been drinking. I've tried to be drunk, right? You don't remember what happened or you threw up or whatever. I've never taken drugs, but, I'm high on life, but I've tried to smoke or whatever, or weed, or, you're laughing and this and that. So people do all these things to avoid the pain of the reason behind it, whether it's a bad relationship or trauma from childhood or from a bomb that exploded, or you're a soldier holding your best friend and his legs are torn off, or he's dying in your arms, right? We had one of the veterans from America that had his best arm and his best friend die in his arms, and he had to go and tell that mom that he couldn't save his best friend, right? It's horrible, heartbreaking. So these people I started helping more than 10 years ago and donating a little bit of money to veterans. And then we created a program, and maybe, Ezra, you don't even know it, but it's called PTSD Liberation. So we try to help or liberate people. It's on the Breathology platform under free courses. You can put a link, or, your smart editor can put it out there on your emails or whatever. But it's called PTSD Liberation. And in the beginning, we charged a bit of money just to make some money back and to have people be serious about it. But then we made it free as a donation to people struggling with PTSD, because they often have also financial hard times because they can't really work or function in the normal way. So if you put stress on them to have to pay as well, it's maybe not the best idea. So I think the simple answer to your question is, how can breath holding work? Is because you get a tool that's healthy, fun, and engaging, and you get in control of your own life again. And then with breathing and learning how to lower your heart rate and how to control that negative thought or that negative mind, then you start to see the light coming back into your life. And then in the PTSD Liberation Program, that was made with the help of Navy SEAL Team 6 operators, war psychologists, the best people in the field. So it's not just me that sat down on a paper, let's make a program. It took a lot of time and money and 7 years of building. And now we have it online so people can do it at home. And we describe different things they can do, start to be more social, go shopping, get outside. So we give people little missions. We call them, because it's often soldiers, right? A mission is like, okay, maybe make a barbecue at home, invite friends. That's very hard for people that struggle to see other people, or, So we describe the process of how we can, get this super alert mind to calm down and know that you're safe. You're not in a war zone anymore. You're not getting attacked by some, family member or some old, grandfather or some uncle, some horrible stories. You are in a safe place now, but you need to detach from the future, the past and those memories, because they're sitting in your body. So you don't want to breathe and you want to hold on and you're tense, and it's called somatic stress. The episode started to affect your body and your muscles, and you want to protect yourself in your mind and in your physical body. So by giving a tool, we try to open the door for, coming back to your old life, your normal life. And then I think also with with breath holding, you know, when you're floating in water and feeling free, it's a way of liberating the muscles and the mind, because you are literally free of the pressure of life. You know, you're floating in water, and it should be warm water, just like we do with people with sickness. We put them in the spa water, warm water, like we do with babies. Never use cold water for that. Only warm water, body temperature. And then when the muscles can relax, then the mind can relax, because the mind is connected to the muscles, and, you know, vice versa. So I think it's just one way of helping people. You could also go in nature, you could swim, but I wouldn't recommend Wim Hof or crazy hyperventilation or ice exposure. You know, in my mind, I might be a tough guy or crazy or diving with killer whales and crocodiles and all this stuff that, you know, but I know what I'm doing. You know, I'm preparing for these dives or under the ice, but I'm not a guy that's kind of extreme. I don't recommend people that are having a very frail nervous system, meaning a very delicate nervous system. They shouldn't do crazy hyperventilation or, you know, too much cold exposure. It's too rough in the beginning. Then with time, you know, they can start doing more of that stuff, you know, breathing more heavily and getting self-confidence and taking a cold shower for 5 seconds. But don't jump in the ice the first day if you are suffering from trauma. I hope it makes sense to you and your listeners. You know, we need to take baby steps. That's one of the approaches that I am always preaching in my Breathology method. Baby steps, have patience, understand and respect the process, which in this case means respect and understand that your nervous system is torn apart, it's broken, it's hypersensitive. It needs to have time to heal, and it takes a long time to take care of yourself and find the self-love again and the trust in other people. And then the nervous system, the threads in there that connect everything in your mind and your body, starts to heal again, because we do have an incredible ability to heal ourselves from inside, but also from loving people and trainings or methods around us. So I think it's the simple explanation, Esra, that there's no big rocket science behind this.
Am I understanding correctly? I don't want to misguide people or myself. So breathology is more focusing and based on a breath holding. Yes, there are steps to come there, but the healing starts with the breath holding.
Yes and no. The breath holding is, because you asked a very relevant question in the beginning that I didn't answer yet, and I'm sorry about that. You asked me, what is breathology? And thank you for being curious about it and for explaining it to all you lovely listeners. Breathology is a 360-degree view of using breathing and understanding it. So like I said before, if you don't understand how to hold your breath, you can't breathe optimally. If you don't know the dark, you don't know the light, right? So we use breath holding, and I think that's what separates breathology from any other learning style in breath work. Now there are so many. Sure. Oxygen Advantage, Wim Hof, holotropic breathing, Stanley Grof. There's so many wonderful schools, and I embrace them all. But you need, you know, the right dose, the right technique for the right person at the right moment for the right reason, right? For anything in life. So I think what is particular, or what is setting breathology apart, not saying making it better, but making it maybe a little bit more complete, is that I also implement the yoga way, you know, the natural way of healing yourself and looking at staying strong and healthy for longevity, because I come from a background of freediving. It's not that I thought, oh, I want to take freediving and put in because it's interesting if I weren't a freediver. You know, I didn't put ballet in there. I didn't put skateboarding in there, you know, because I don't know about those sports. So probably you could use that as well in beautiful ways. You know, ballet could loosen the body. You could be in balance with your brain. And you could probably make a program like that. But I took what made sense to me. The ocean, healing, Mother Nature, the water we all have in ourselves. We stem from the water. We come from the ocean. And then my passion for that and my understanding of what it can do for the relaxation and for healing the body and the mind. And this is where we go beyond doctors. And that is why I was a little bit bold, you know, a little bit brave, and said breath holding is the new black. For those who don't know, it means, it's an English term meaning like breath holding is the new thing to do. It's the new shit. It's the new, it's the new great way of doing things. So it's like a paradigm shift. It's like a new way of looking at healing and becoming better. In your everyday life and in sports and business and anything. And that's also why I'm focusing on this program that I'm so happy you're joining on 2nd October. It's like a masterclass where we teach all this. And we don't only teach people how to build their own program. We teach people how they can help other people, if that makes sense. That's why we call it an instructor training. Does it make sense to you?
Sure.
We teach people how to do it to themselves and for themselves, but then also how they can have clients or patients or family members. You don't have to make money from it. You can, but we give it as a tool for people to help themselves and then to help other people. That's the 8 weeks masterclass I'm running on the instructor training in October, November.
You're the perfect example for us to really understand what an athlete is, because we only see when people are competing and it's like harsh, it's hard, it's competitive, it's like you hold your breath while watching. But now that how you explain and describe that, if you wouldn't do a holistic approach and if you wouldn't be spiritual and if you wouldn't do all these meditations and everything to prep yourself, not only how to dive or how far to go, but also like how to be calm and stable. And that's what I'm hearing, that Breathology is that. It's your experience, how you prepared yourself for all these very high achievements, and you're helping people to do them because obviously they consider everything you did as a very extreme sports, dangerous sports. Therefore, you're linking it to people who have been in dangerous situation like PTSD, addiction, whatnot, and you're teaching them how to deal with their memories or the environment they're living in by helping themselves to stay calm. Did I explain it well?
I could not have explained it better myself. You did it perfectly well. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to complete this episode with something that I chatted with my friend Ebru Shinik. She had been a guest on my podcast, and she has a well-being organization, and she got trained by Deepak Chopra. And she has like thousands of followers. And I make jokes with her. She's like a cult leader. But when I was having a dinner with her once and I was telling her that I met you and you hold your breath for 22 minutes under the water, she goes like, he's not human. Does he have gills? So her and I, we both believe in aliens, obviously. So when in between these chatters and then suddenly you're able to hold your breath for so long, she's like, he's not from this planet. So I want to also share this with you. And I believe that people who are like-minded may not be belonging to this planet, actually. But thank you so much, Stig. Thank you for your time. And for people who would like to do the education, we're going to be airing this program before the course starts. So therefore, they're going to have a chance to listen to the program and make a decision.
Yeah, of course.
And thank you for being so generous and giving me a code. It's ESRA 600. It's for $600 discount, correct?
Yes, we still, we closed the early bird, as we call the offer that we only had in summer. But now, since I'm on your podcast and I know you have a lot of listeners, of course, we want to honor that same. So it's 4 capital letters, ESRA, ESRA 600. And they can see all the details on the website. But basically, anyone can apply. We want to make sure that it's a good match. We don't want anybody that, don't think it's the right time. So you have to do like a 2-3 minutes application. Just fill in your name and why you want to do it. And we want to get to know you. My team reads through all this. They call or email back. If there are some really, really deep questions, then I sometimes go in and help the team. But we have people applying from all over the world because, just so they understand, your listeners, this is all online. So anyone can join. We have people from China, South America, Australia joining. So it's a great community to be part of also for the future. It's fun, but it's a home study course. And then every week we meet online and it's like a masterclass with me. Like now, I answer questions, I help people, and the team is there. And we bring on experts just like you have experts on your podcast. We bring in Navy SEALs, Olympian goal-winning athletes, people I've been training. They're happy to share their knowledge and their specific genius with the audience, with members of the training, because they found value in what I taught them and trained them on their journey. So anyone can apply. You don't need to be any like super athlete or, whether you're old or young or have some challenges in life. You can join just to become better yourself. Or, of course, like doctors and dentists and physiotherapists and fitness trainers and yoga trainers, they join to have extra tools in the toolbox. You would probably fit a little bit in that category. You're curious about what else can you do when you have clients. But many people don't care about the certification. information you get in the end, they don't want to put it on the Instagram. They want to do it for their own reason, or maybe to help a family member who's having a hard time. So we have different reasons why people join. But then you meet a lot of other nice people, and you can do the homework or not. That's up to you if you want to be certified. And then 8 weeks, we do it together. So we end before Christmas, before everybody gets busy, before the family starts to buy presents and travel around to meet, other family members. So it's just 8 weeks in the autumn when it gets dark outside and you sit at home and study. So it's a fun way to learn to master breathing in a new way, to get some new skills. We give you all the slides and all the beautiful illustrations, how the lungs are working. So we had a team dedicated for all the artwork. So we hand all that over, manuals. You get a lot of stuff you can use, and we teach people how to build their kind of like yourself, that you're great at, the social media platforms. How do they get new clients? And people get featured if they want, on our global Breathology instructor page. So we have a lot of traffic, meaning a lot of people search breathing and healing and PTSD. They come to breathology.com. And then in the portal, people can have a picture and the phone number or a website. So we help people getting more clients and make more money, if that's a wish. So it's a very comprehensive study, and it's the only time of year we do it, once a year. And anybody can join, and we'll see if it's a good match. And if it's not a good match, or if it doesn't feel like the right time now, then maybe we'll open again next year. We don't know, but because I'm in so many projects. But in general, you go through the application, and that's it. And then when you pay the first rate, when you join the program, we've cut the price in half. So it's actually very, very cheap, but people can see the price online and talk with the team. But when you then start, you get access to everything Breathology. The fundamentals course, the advanced course, anything you can imagine. You become one of the family members of Breathology.
That's wonderful.
It's a fun journey. Yeah, we do it together.
So I'll then see you in October on your course.
Exactly. Starting October 2nd. And I can't wait. And I thank you so much and your team for setting up this amazing podcast. What your listeners don't know is that you've been preparing for so many hours and nights and seeing my videos and reading my book and doing all this work. And I really appreciate that, because it's a lot of effort for one interview. So thank you, Ezra. Thank you to your team. And thank you to everyone in Turkey and beyond for listening, for using their time, valuable time, to listening to us. And I hope that this can help people, and maybe they start a little bit of curiosity on their own new breath journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.